guys are lifesavers.
That's what you think.
In action.
The Walking Dead Dead City, exclusively on AMC and AMC+.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/team-up.
Spectrum News Plus. Local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
Hello, I'm Robert Guadarrama. Here is your Spectrum News in 90. A new wildfire has erupted in Southern California, forcing thousands in Los Angeles County out of their homes. The fire has scorched over 5,000 acres, and it's being fueled by extreme heat and gusty winds. It comes as one of the largest wildfires this year. The Gifford fire has burned out of control for days. The Texas House once again failed to reach a quorum as Democrats refused to return to the state amid their bid to block a GOP-led redistricting effort. Republican leaders say they are working to make civil arrest warrants for absent Democrats enforceable in Illinois, where many lawmakers are staying.
The brave men and women that have chosen to take this path in order to keep Donald Trump's agenda from affecting the American people, we are undeterred. We will continue to march on.
Israeli leaders facing global criticism after approving a plan to take control of Gaza City. However, the announcement stopped short of saying Israel would take full control of the Strip. In response, Germany says it will halt weapon exports to Israel.
The humanitarian crisis in Gaza with the hunger that is going on there, the suffering of my family as well as 49 other families, we need to put an end to it.
And that's your Spectrum News in 90.
Welcome to The Big Deal. I'm Errol Lewis, national political anchor at Spectrum News. This program focuses on the future of our country and its people. This week, the big deal is Republican congressional members returning to their districts and facing explosive backlash from constituents over the Trump administration's agenda. While many Republican lawmakers are avoiding town halls over the summer break, a handful have given it a try, and they've been met with packed auditoriums full of angry voters with tough questions about the president's spending plan, which cuts safety net programs, including SNAP and Medicaid. Here's the scene from earlier this week at Republican Congressman Mike Flood's town hall in Nebraska. Joining me now with more are two top political analysts. Reuben Jones is a Spectrum News political reporter based in Washington, D.C. Jason Fechner is an anchor for Spectrum News 1 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And Jason, we just watched that congressman from Nebraska deal with tough questions, a lot of booing from his constituents. I want to play a part of what Congressman Brian Stell encountered at a town hall in your neck of the woods just last week.
The moral hazard created by the Biden administration by allowing the U.S.-Mexico border to remain insecure. And so
now we're hearing that $600 million are going to be taken from FEMA and given to build these camps holding immigrants, many of whom are not criminals.
So, Jason, that's just one of many Republican officials around the country that are getting questions about President Trump's agenda. Is this voter anger temporary, or is it going to follow these lawmakers onto the ballot next year?
Errol, great to see you, and I should quickly mention that after that rough reception that Congressman Style had there in Elkhorn last week, he opted for a telephone town hall instead on Thursday night out there. Congressman Style said that he's personally not worried about it. He said that he doesn't think that that minority of protesters at that rally there really represent Wisconsin. But you got to remember a couple factors come into play, and of course certain Republicans are going to be worried about all of this. To your question there, it's been nearly a year now since President Donald Trump was reelected out there, and a lot of economists will point out that a lot of the things that drove Americans to the polls when it comes to the economy and prices and inflation really haven't gone down out there, and they've gotten worse since President Donald Trump has gotten back into office, of course. And now we'll see how tariffs impact all of that going forward. In addition to what the Trump administration is dealing with on that front right now, we don't have to look too far back. We can just look into history to see that obviously the party that controls the White House faces an uphill climb when it comes to the midterms. I don't believe it's been since 2002, President George W. Bush at the time, that the president's party has picked up seats in the midterms. In President Donald Trump's first term, Republicans lost roughly 40 seats in the House in the midterms there. Even President Barack Obama, rather, in his first term in office, Democrats lost roughly 60 seats at the time. So there are a lot of seats that will be up for grabs. And in the midst of all of this, President Donald Trump's approval rating out there down roughly 5 points since February. That's according to the latest average of all polls at realclearpolitics.com as of Friday. So yes, regardless of what some Republicans say right now, there is definitely worry in the GOP going forward.
Okay, yeah, trouble ahead for them. And now, Ruben, in other news this week, the Environmental Protection Agency canceled a $7 billion grant program that helped to pay for residential solar projects for low-income American households. Is this part of the administration's support for fossil fuels and their shift away from renewable energy?
Yeah, Errol, very much, and good to see you, by the way. Look, the goal of this program was to bring down electric costs, but the EPA administrator said that because of the passage of that Republican tax and spending bill that was signed by President Trump this summer, the EPA doesn't have the authority to manage this program anymore. There are a lot who disagree with that assessment, including Senator Bernie Sanders, who says this is an illegal action. You look at a state like North Carolina, for example, that state was awarded $156 million under this program, according to the Democratic lawmakers who represent the state. They sent a letter to the EPA administrator condemning this move, worried about what concerns this will have for groups that had already been preparing to receive this money. Look, the administration obviously has fully embraced fossil fuels here and tried to move away from solar and wind and other clean energy sources, with the exception being nuclear energy. And earlier this summer, the EPA proposed a new ruling that heat trapping carbon gas emissions from fossil fuel powered power plants do not contribute significantly to dangerous air pollution. That is something scientists obviously very vehemently disagree with. So yes, very much part of the strategy here by the Trump administration. Okay, and then Jason, one more big deal this week. President Trump has ordered a new census that would exclude millions of people who are living in the country without legal status. But I went back and looked at it. The 14th Amendment to the Constitution says that the census is performed by, quote, counting the whole number of persons in each state. So a new count might be interesting, but it really wouldn't be a census. Is the real goal here to, I guess, contribute to deportation of non-citizens or something?
And Errol, I think that's the big question. A lot of experts, as you point out there, say that this is logistically impossible, if not unconstitutional. President Donald Trump in his first term tried to get a citizenship question onto the census then, and that was blocked by a federal appellate panel, and the United States Supreme Court simply threw it out. As for whether this could be used to target non-citizens or undocumented immigrants here in the United States, the Census Bureau already has a hard time getting them to fill out the proper census. So whether or not the administration could use this in terms of deportation, we'll have to wait and see.
Okay, and then real quick, Ruben, the Health Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., has canceled nearly $500 million worth of grants and contracts for developing mRNA vaccines. Those are the kind that got us through the COVID-19 pandemic just a couple of years ago. What are the public health experts saying about all of that?
Errol, just a really lot of concern for medical experts about what this could mean for preventing future vaccines, what it could mean for cancer research and trying to combat that as well. Look, as you mentioned, Errol, this is important to note because the president had Operation Warp Speed, the creation of the COVID vaccine, and he was asked about that this week at the White House, asking how can you be a supporter of Operation Warp Speed and then taking away all of this money from mRNA vaccines, and he basically dodged the question. I'll just say one other quick thing on this, Errol. The HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said in his video that mRNA vaccines are not doing an effective job, basically. I would point out here that the goal of an mRNA vaccine is not necessarily to not get a virus like COVID, like flu. It is to avoid a less severe case of it. So while it may prevent somewhat in terms of getting it, it brings down the severity of it. And that's something the HHS Secretary just didn't really get into much in his announcement.
Yeah, it sure worked for me and my family. Thank you both very much for that analysis. We're going to take a break now, and when we come back, we'll tell you about the changes coming to Medicaid under President Trump's new spending plan. Stay with us.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Bring it to the party. Bring it to the top. Bring it to the party. Never gonna stop.
Enjoy. Unwind. Connect. With Spectrum TV on Demand. From the latest hit movies you've been waiting to watch to your favorite comfort shows and more, all available instantly for you to stream. Create the all-around entertainment experience you've always wanted with Spectrum TV on Demand. Browse over 80,000 on-demand titles today.
Being a cowboy, well, I don't know anything different. I had a very successful career. Life was fast. I was preparing physically. I wasn't doing anything mentally. And then I got hurt. I dug into mental health. I wanted to be better as a person. I start my day with a workout. I live life 8 seconds at a time. Find a place to stop and just breathe. Love your mind.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
Thanks for staying with The Big Deal, where we are continuing to analyze President Trump's tax and spending plan and what it will mean for everyday American families. Today, we're taking a closer look at cuts to Medicaid, which 71 million people rely on for health insurance. That's 1 in every 5 Americans. Federal spending on this safety net insurance program will be reduced by nearly $1 trillion over the next 10 years. That's due to changes, including new work requirements for some recipients and the loss of coverage eligibility for some immigrants. Altogether, this is expected to increase the number of uninsured people in America by 10 million. That's according to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. Spectrum News reporter Taylor Torregano visited one clinic in Los Angeles where Medicaid recipients are worried about what these cuts will mean for their health care.
As a caretaker and community organizer, Renee Contreras says she's often bringing senior residents here to their appointments at Via Care Community Health Center. But she also relies heavily on the physical and mental health care here.
Just a lot of anxiety lately. I'm worried about my health and my benefits.
Renee says she's concerned that soon she and the seniors she helps will no longer be able to receive medical care now that President Donald Trump has signed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act into law, with significant cuts to Medicaid funding.
With the cuts that they want to do right now, we would have to work 80 hours to get Medicaid. It's impossible. We're disabled and we're seniors, 65 years old. It's impossible. There's no way.
Republican legislators say the new work requirements will make the program work better for those who truly need it. Florida Representative Byron Donalds shared similar sentiments.
We put in something that's a common sense approach, work requirements. That's in the law. And I think people understand that, look, if you're able-bodied but you're down on your luck, yeah, we'll help you. But that doesn't mean you're not supposed to go to work, or at least try to find a way to get back to work.
But Representative Jimmy Gomez says the impacts of these funding cuts will be devastating for patients of clinics like this one. 3.4 million of LA County's residents are enrolled in Medi-Cal, the state's Medicaid program, according to LA County Supervisor Hilda Solis, who adds 600,000 of them are undocumented.
They've been to our community twice, ICE, so now they're scared. They don't come out. They haven't been to their doctor appointments. So Via Care says we can do telehealth, we could do a Zoom call, we could even deliver their medicines because some of them have sugar diabetes, high blood pressure, and they need those medications.
Doing all she can to fill the gaps in the meantime.
Joining me now with more on all of this is Robin Rudowitz, the vice president at KFF, a nonprofit health policy research, polling, and news organization. She is also the director of KFF's program on Medicaid and the uninsured. And Ms. Rudowitz, the new law includes the first nationwide mandatory work requirements for Medicaid recipients. What are those requirements, and how many people will it risk putting out of coverage?
That's right. The new law that just passed would require states to implement these work requirements or community engagement requirements for individuals in the expansion, Medicaid expansion group. It would require individuals to work 80 hours per month or meet certain exemptions. We already know that data show that 92% of adults on the Medicaid program are either working or would likely meet some type of exemption. Yet the Congressional Budget Office earlier estimates show that about 5 million more people would likely become uninsured as a result of these provisions, largely because individuals would have a hard time navigating some type of reporting requirement. So documenting or verifying that they are either working or meet that exemption.
The law also requires states to start building systems to monitor work requirements and track eligibility and so forth. Right now, my understanding is that Georgia is the only state that already has a system in place. Has it been smooth sailing there, and what can other states learn from their experience?
That's right. Georgia's currently the only state that is implementing a work requirement in the Medicaid program, but we do have some earlier experience and evidence from Arkansas work to do work requirements under a demonstration program under the first Trump administration, again, as a demonstration waiver. We know that it is difficult for states to adopt these systems. Medicaid has not typically been a program that has to track work and work hours. So this would require a lot of new administrative costs for states to be able to track and document that. We also know that individuals, enrollees have experienced a lot of confusion about what the requirements mean, how to go through the reporting, navigating some of that reporting. And again, that has led to coverage loss. In the case of Arkansas, 18,000 people had lost their coverage largely because they were not able to meet those reporting requirements. And we know that in Georgia, enrollment in the program has been much lower than anticipated, again, because of some of the barriers in applying for the program to meet these new requirements.
Let me switch to a different topic. Rural hospitals across the nation are going to be severely affected by these cuts. Experts are warning that they may have to close a lot of these hospitals or cut services. Why is that?
Well, we know that rural hospitals, and this has become an issue in thinking about some of these changes, are already struggling more than their urban counterparts. So rural hospitals have seen a lot of closures in more recent years and are typically seeing lower operating margins than hospitals in more urban areas. Rural hospitals are key in providing care for Medicaid enrollees. They provide coverage for half of all births in rural areas are financed by the Medicaid program, and 1 in 5 discharges are financed by the Medicaid program. So, of course, reductions of this magnitude for Medicaid overall will have implications for rural hospitals. And the effects really come from coverage loss that may be tied to those work requirements, as well as some other financing changes that are included in the bill that could have implications for states' ability to raise their state share of financing for the program and bolster those payments for rural hospitals.
Okay, we will keep an eye on all of this. Thank you very much, Ms. Rudowitz. Great talking with you. Coming up next, the future of federal regulations of potentially deadly lithium-ion batteries remains uncertain after President Trump fired top officials at the Consumer Product Safety Commission. We'll bring you those details next.
The stories that touch our border affect us all. That's why at Spectrum News Plus, we don't just cover these communities. Our dedicated reporting team also calls them home. That perspective allows us to take an in-depth look, going beyond the politics, to see the impact on people's lives and what it means for you and your community. Balanced border coverage that tells the full story here on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all your favorite devices, exclusively on Spectrum.
Spectrum with Paramount Plus is the entertainment destination.
You're gonna love this.
Getting oil out of the ground is the most dangerous job in the world.
It's so good to see you.
Come on!
Right now, I am in first gear. Would you like to see me shift to 6?
Stream a mountain of the entertainment you love on Paramount Plus. Included in Spectrum TV Select plans at no extra cost.
What are you doing in there?
What's that?
I wouldn't do that. What are you doing? What are you looking for?
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard.
At first we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
You're watching The Big Deal. Proposed federal regulations to prevent deadly lithium-ion battery fires appear to be a casualty of President Trump's decision to oust members of the Consumer Product Safety Commission. That leaves Congress as the last best hope to regulate these batteries, which have been blamed for causing thousands of fires across the country, along with many deaths. Spectrum News political reporter Kevin Fry in our Washington, D.C. bureau has more in this report.
They've been compared to ticking time bombs, rechargeable lithium-ion batteries, often found in e-bikes and scooters. In New York City alone, fires caused by the batteries resulted in 150 injuries and 18 deaths in just 1 year, 2023. In late April, the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission voted 3-2 to advance new safety standards for the batteries. But less than 2 weeks later, President Donald Trump upended the 5-member board, firing 3 commissioners appointed by former President Joe Biden, leaving just 2, who then backtracked on the proposed safety standards.
We expected to be well on the way at this point. And instead, a few days later, we got fired by the president.
Richard Trumka Jr. is one of those who was dismissed. He estimates that without the White House's intervention, safety regulations could have been finalized by the end of this year.
They've put lives at risk. They've set back regulation of lithium-ion batteries, and by doing that, by setting us back, it's going to cost lives.
The firings immediately faced legal challenges, but ultimately the Supreme Court allowed them to stand. Consumer advocates warn it's not just lithium-ion battery regulations that are hanging in the balance.
No new safety rules are being finalized right now at the CPSC, including those for children's products, and that leaves families at risk.
With the Consumer Product Safety Commission sidelined, some now see action by Congress as the safest bet to regulate lithium-ion batteries. Such regulations are a top priority for the New York Fire Department, which argues federal rules are needed to stop them from entering the U.S. from overseas. Congress nearly included reforms in a sweeping spending bill late last year, before President Trump and his then ally Elon Musk derailed that legislation. This year, New York Congressman Richie Torres is spearheading a bill to crack down on the batteries. The measure has made progress.
We passed the legislation in the House on an overwhelming bipartisan basis. I'm cautiously optimistic that it will pass the Senate.
Kevin Fry joins me now with more. And Kevin, have you heard from the commission?
Yeah, so we reached out to them for reaction to some of what was claimed by various people you heard in the piece there. They say that the 3 fired commissioners that were let go earlier this year sought approval of these proposed rules without going through the interagency review that the Trump administration has been pushing for. A spokesperson did also say that, quote, lithium-ion battery safety remains a priority, but they did not say if or when they'll actually get around to proposing any new rules. I also reached out to the White House. They did not offer any sort of comment either.
Yeah, I mean, explain how dangerous these battery fires can be. I mean, it's not just like a regular fire, right?
No, I mean, there's kind of a ripple effect that builds when it comes to these fires. And so one small case can very rapidly catch fire and then have an implication well beyond just this small object. In fact, it kind of is compared to almost a bullet when these things explode. On top of that, when you have multiple e-bikes, for example, lined up, or you have multiple of these batteries within the same proximity, then that only increases the threat and risk as well. And since people are taking these home into their living rooms, or if they're lining them up in a shop or taking them onto an airplane, obviously the potential casualties and impacts there only grow further.
Do we know why the Trump administration and Elon Musk wanted this pulled out of the ultimate spending bill? I mean, is this about Musk wanting less regulation of his electric car batteries?
Right, so to contextualize this, of course, this was December, and Trump was not yet in office, but this is when we started seeing Trump and Elon Musk really push for various cuts to federal spending. And so this was caught up in a large spending bill. It was not necessarily that they were taking aim at this particular fraction of the bill. It was more or less a casualty of their desire to nix the entire bill overall and go with something much smaller.
Okay, thanks very much, Kevin. And thank you for joining us. There will be no episode of The Big Deal next week. We are taking a summer break, but we'll return the following week. Stay tuned to your local Spectrum station.
Friday nights, The Big Deal with Errol Lewis, where Spectrum News' local political journalists break down the most important issues shaping our nation.
Here's the deal. People need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices, exclusively on Spectrum.
Are you ready for the ultimate entertainment experience? Spectrum is bringing together the streaming apps you love. Plus, live TV for sports, entertainment, and news. All in one place, across your devices. So no matter when or where you are, it's all here. Spectrum.
Weather can be beautiful, inconvenient, and at times powerful. And it affects everything we do. At Spectrum News Plus, our weather experts update you with the information and the context you need so you can better plan your day. And we do it every 10 minutes. We're the calm in the storm. Weather on the Ones on Spectrum News Plus, exclusively on Spectrum. And get your weather anytime on the Spectrum News app. Spectrum News Plus. Local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the Spectrum.